It's been a minute, but we're back. Welcome to another episode of Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame Case for ... And before we do that, I just want to say a couple things. So if you want to get right in the meat of everything, fast forward a few minutes, but I just want to do something very publicly here, if I could. Obviously, really the host of this, Vinny Lospinuso, my good friend, who I'm really proud of because of some of the things that he's accomplished in the next little while. I don't know if you want to bring that up a little bit later, but you can. But even though we've actually never met in person, I felt comfortable enough to sort of reach out to him a little bit over the last couple of weeks because I had a death in my family. Actually, my father passed, and Vinny was kind enough to check up on me as things were sort of progressing. So thank you very much. So this is not just sort of the host of this show, the focus of the show, but he's also a really good person. I just wanted to point that out here if I could.
Well, I've always wanted to do whatever I could to help people, and I've known that you've been dealing with some personal troubles lately with, the death of your mom and now the death of your dad. I can't even imagine what that experience is like.
It just means you drink more. But
I would say be very careful with that too. Well, because even then, the closest I ever had was my grandfather passing when I was 8 years old in 2007. But outside of that, I haven't had a death in the family like in a very, very long time.
Yeah, well, it's just sadly one of those things that we're both coming, but it is what it is. But today, it's we can celebrate my dad and just say, let's just dedicate this to the memory of Peter Buckner, if you don't mind. But we're actually sort of like looking at somebody else who passed today, somebody who I think is going to be very popular among some of the people that you've talked about before. We're looking at Max Zaslofsky.
Max Zaslofsky.
Easy for me to say. No, he's been very, very popular in the Naughton Hall of Fame community. Now, when I first sort of set up the Naughton Hall of Fame site, or the basketball section rather, for those who were to be considered for the Basketball Hall of Fame, Max was ranked in the 20s or 30s. I can't remember exactly where. He at one point was number 1. He's now number 4. But in terms of just behind people like Wade, Nowitzki, and Gasol, and ahead of everyone else. The voting that all of you, and you can continue to do at nonhalloffame.com, have given Zaslofsky has been very, very good. I believe last time I checked, it was around 94% of people who voted who say that he should be in. And yet he's not. Zaslofsky is, I'm not sure if he's won, but I think he's the only person, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, this is your show, the only person who is not in the Basketball Hall of Fame who is a member of the 25th anniversary All NBA team. And why do you think that might be?
Well, you made a mistake.
Is it 1 or is it 2?
He's one of the 2. The other one is being Bob Furick, but Zaslofsky definitely has a way better case than Furick. But Zaslofsky is the only player to be a scoring champion of the NBA and still not be in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And he's also the only player to have 4 or more All-NBA first teams. He's the first ever player to have 4 NBA first teams, but the only one that's not in the Hall of Fame. He is one of those rare exceptions. Those it's sort of like a Leroy Edwards situation for me. Okay. Whereas like the numbers, especially with Edwards, is sometimes just as good, if not better than the competition, yet he's like a rare exception that just misses the cut for whatever reason. And it makes no sense in my personal opinion.
It really does. Because like when we've talked about, you and I, many, many times before, that's since been rectified with Jerry Kramer, who was the last person of the 50th NFL anniversary team. Is it 50th or 25th? 50th, I
It
believe.
was the 50th.
Thank you. So last person, the 50th, and there were theories that we were able to come up with. One of which being that possibly because he was a good self promoter and he actually wrote a bestseller before most of the writers ever did, who got to vote on that. That's my theory personally.
That was the main reason, based on
Yeah.
what I.
Okay. Yeah. So you came up with the same research that I did, or the same conclusion rather. I can't figure this out.
I have no I have an idea as to why.
Okay.
Um, there are some theories, in my opinion, as to why
Okay.
that was the case. You gotta first start off where he was. When he was growing up, he was the son of Russian immigrants
Mhm.
who grew up in Brooklyn. And after he graduated high school, he spent some time in the Navy during World War II. And
Mhm.
then afterwards, he started playing basketball at St. John's University.
Mhm.
And he was an honorable mention, all Metropolitan, and even played in the National Invitation Tournament, the NIT.
Mhm.
And there was no
Which,
draft at this time, so he
just for some of the people who are younger, unlike Vinny, but Vinny knows his shit. So the NIT, when people hear the NIT, they think, well, that's not impressive. It was.
it was impressive for the time. It was
Yeah.
very, very impressive.
It was, yeah. It's the NIT was what the NCAA tournament is now.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry, I just didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to put some an added layer of context for the youngins.
No, no, other youngins, I should
Other
say.
youngins, yeah, yourself not included, because
Yes,
you're the wise sage in a 23-year-old body. It's impressive.
yes, I do think about myself like that. And now, when you look at the he saw an opening of the BAA. That was the predecessor to the NBA. He said, "You know what? I like playing basketball. Why don't I try this professionally?"
Mhm.
And he played amazing in his rookie season at the age of 21. He made all NBA first team and was the youngest player to hold that distinction for 60 years. His record for all NBA first team at that age, you know how long that lasted?
Well, you just said 60 years, but
Yeah,
I mean,
60 years, and you know who surpassed it?
yes, I do. I believe that was LeBron James.
Indeed, it was LeBron James. So it took LeBron James to surpass a record held by Max Zaslofsky.
Mhm.
Think about that for a second. 60 years to
Yes.
break that LeBron James broke. He broke a 60-year-old record.
Yeah, so we're not also talking about a person who entered pro basketball, at least the precursor to the NBA, the BAA, like you mentioned, uh, at an older age. He did this pretty much from day one. Uh, Now, what was the team he started off with? Chicago, I believe, or do I have that wrong?
Not the Bulls, the Chicago Stags. They're
Chicago
not
Fire.
around anymore. They
Right.
folded in 1950.
And then that's sort of like where he sort of got dispersed.
Well, when he was there in his rookie season,
Yeah.
that team was so good they ended up going to the finals, but they lost in five games to the then Philadelphia Warriors.
Right. But I guess where I'm going with this. So even though it's a big market, Chicago, it's not the Bulls. So we don't have that history where you sort of like have one of the top five marketable teams currently in the 2023, just putting it on our 2023 glasses on, right? So we don't
No,
have like a major team sort of like saying this is part of our history. So Zaslofsky, and this is sort of like I guess reason number one, we could say, just and a few others I think we're going to mention, we'll probably came to the same conclusion. Uh, so there's not a current team in the NBA saying, look at this person who was part of our history. Because at his best, there is no team that can connect him and can claim him. Fair?
no one can. He's sort of a lone wolf. His best chance, honestly, is St. John's University. But even then, they don't really discuss him or even talk about him.
Why?
So that's technically 2 points. A third point, in my opinion,
Well, do you know why? Like, I know he was only there for 1 year, from what I read, but
well, he was
not
there for
long.
1 year, and also, during that time, basketball was not as big as it is now. So I think that also plays a role too. Recency bias also plays a role.
And
A
his
lot of people
number's
that
not retired by St. John, correct?
numbers not retired by St. John's, no.
Okay, so following the elimination of the Stags. So he played a few years, was an all-star once, but his best years were behind him. I couldn't find whether he was just sort of injured or whether there was just an influx of just better players coming in. Like, why did his play decline after in the 50s? Because he
His
was still
play didn't really his play didn't really decline.
huh?
Like even in 1950, he led the league in free throw percentage, and in 52, he was an all-star. And if you even look at his time with the Knicks, he brought them to the finals in 1952, where they in one time in 51. Then the following year, he led them again back-to-back years to the finals, and again they lost to the Lakers. So in a span of like just a few years, he was the best player on a team that went to on teams that went to three different finals, but lost all three of them. So that also hurts him. So he was like the face of a team, all three of those teams that would lose to the finals. That happened today. That guy would already be in the Hall of Fame.
Right, but it's a lot harder to get to the finals now, to be fair.
Yeah, it was to be fair, it was easier, but but his teams were still good enough to make it there. And plus, I think it was also the influx in talent.
Was
But
he the top guy for the Knicks at that point? I don't think so, was he?
yes, he was. He
For a
was
while.
viewed as the lead guy.
Okay. All right. So the Knicks don't had the Knicks one of them that won one of those series. Possibly that fan base or that organization could have helped propel him.
He
Uh,
would have, because both of those losses as a member of the Knicks, it was both of them were 7-game series.
Now, does him being a Russian Jew or Orthodox Jew? I
Uh,
don't know the voters because that's something that you and I discuss a lot. We don't know who the voters even are. We have no clue.
I
So,
could be a voter for all I know. I'm not, by the
for all you
way.
know, I love the way you worded that. That's perfect. But anti-Semitism, unfortunately, it's rearing its ugly head quite a bit lately. We've discussed this.
Thank you, Kanye.
No, yeah, exactly. I didn't want to say it, but Zaslofsky, even though he was part of a Russian immigrant and not Russian, obviously, I don't think people in the 50s or people nowadays understand the. Yeah, okay, maybe you think you're anti-Russian now. You don't
And
necessarily know about the McCarthyism, the issues that were going on to anyone who could have been associated with that. Now, I'm not saying that this
that reared very ugly in the 50s in particular.
right, but is that sort of part of why maybe when he was eligible come 60s, 70s, he gets forgotten?
I think that's a big part of it, honestly.
It could be. I mean, like we'll never know. And
I can't tell you, but that just, in my opinion, I think that definitely played a part. That I'm just being frank. I think that played a part because when he retired, he finished third all time in scoring behind George Mikan and Joe Fulks.
Mhm.
That's Hall of Fame numbers. I don't care what you think of, the play back then. When you finish third behind Mikan and Fulks, you're a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. I don't care what you think.
And we're not. And I was trying to search as much as I could to see if there was like any kind of character thing, and I couldn't find one.
I couldn't find anything on him,
Okay.
anything about character. Like the beauty I would argue with the beauty of a lot of these older guys is that there's not much detail about their personal life, so we can't really comment on their character. I don't know what Zaslofsky's character was. He died when he was 59 years old in
But if it was
1985.
bad character, we would have known it. It's that shit comes out a lot not cleaner. It comes out a lot more fast and furious than anything that's good.
Oh yeah, but there's nothing. There's literally nothing here. All that's left is just like I had a wife and that he had a
Now,
couple kids, grandkids.
you and I, uh, especially more. To be fair, we talk about more about Pro Football Hall of Fame snubs and whatnot, and uh, we have our little Twitter group that you and I are a part of, and a lot of it usually comes down to talking about the senior categories. And well, like once you sort of like fall into the seniors, how hard it is to sort of get through. That is definitely true for football. That is nothing compared to what we got going on in basketball. Zlowski's in, I believe, I don't even know what category, what do they call it? The veteran category?
It's called the veterans. Yeah, he's the veterans
Mhm.
are combined with pre-modern contributors and coaches. So that means he doesn't have to just go up against the Leroy Edwards and the Leo Ferrises and all these other like contributors, like so many.
Both of whom you can check out on Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame case for. See what I did
Yes,
there?
indeed. Please. Frank Lubin, though, has not been listed on there, which I don't understand
It'd be
why. But
international, but yes.
yeah, but like, either way, like he has to compete against so many names, which I understand that a lot of people criticize the Basketball Hall of Fame for being, too inclusive and whatnot. But even then, like when you look at a lot of those names that are on the Veterans Committee, like the ones I just mentioned, there's a real case to be made for them. There genuinely is. And I feel that, you know, my issue is that outside of like a lot of the Black Pioneers, I haven't seen as much with the Basketball Hall to really indicate that they really listen to like a lot of those like early guys. I want them to. I'm not going to bank on it personally. I really think they should. Um, Maybe if I get in touch with Jerry Colangelo or something, I could tell him about it and how it's necessary because he runs the Basketball Hall of Fame. I could give him my 2 cents on the matter.
Yeah, after you do that, I've got a couple for him also. Just one thing I just want to go back. I think when you mean inclusive, you're not talking about necessarily the woke terminology. I think you're talking about more like high school and college and just like different variations of basketball, correct?
Yes, it's though actually that's what I like the most about basketball. That it's definitely the most forgiving, I guess you could say, when it
Mhm.
comes to it. Where like even if you're like injured, they're still willing to consider you, and if your contributions are beyond just like playing, like they add a lot more unique contributors, which I like. That always, of
Oh,
course, is
I know that's right up your alley. But
yeah. Obviously, that's going to be why I like it a lot.
but I think what other people who, what I think you and I want them to understand is when somebody gets into a senior pool in football and they get to become a finalist, you're like currently one of what, three people, and you're probably going to get in. In basketball, you're one of, I didn't even count how many when I looked
Like
at,
20, 30.
I think more than that on
Oh,
that
geez,
whole
like
list.
24. Like it's a high number. It's like above like 25.
Right. So, and they're only going to induct one as part of a direct elect.
Yes, only one. I
So
think they should
just
do at least like two or three personally.
right, but
It's one that's too hard for me.
exactly. So like we're talking about somebody that, despite the accomplishments, his road is very, very hard because he's going up against a hell of a lot more people from a hell of a lot more fields than,
Hmm.
let's just say, the three people who just got in the Pro Football Hall of Fame through that.
And Leroy Edwards doesn't even get a sniff. I don't even know how Zaslofsky's gonna get one by comparison. And
He is
that's
a
no shot
nominee,
against Zaslofsky. It's just the looking at the reality of the situation.
right? But he is a nominee.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's a nominee, and so is Edwards, and yes, so is Ferris.
Yeah, but it's very, very difficult. All right, so we talked about Ferris and Edwards before. So, all right, let's put Vinny on the spot. You can only pick one of these three. Who are you picking?
Um,
If,
hmm.
if it's a one-person induction or
One
committee,
one person.
one-person committee, that's you, and one person you can induct out of those three.
Considering the Basketball Hall of Fame already does a lot with contributors already more than others, and because his numbers are just so much better compared to like people already in, I got to go with Leroy Edwards. Like Leroy Edwards is definitely the one I'd go with because as much as I love Zaslofsky, and I do, but Edwards has won multiple MVPs, multiple championships.
Mm-hmm.
George Mikan said he was literally the toughest person he ever went against, and that was on bad knees. Like that alone. And as for why I have him over Ferris and Zaslofsky,
Mm-hmm.
Ferris in like vacuum, I would go above Edwards. However, considering that the Basketball Hall of Fame already puts more contributors in than most of them, I'm willing to leave him for a year. And as for Zaslofsky, I love him. I think he's deserving, but there's no way I can say objectively that he had a better career than Edwards. I just can't.
Fair. No, that's fair. Would you put Zaslofsky over Ferris?
No, I go with Ferris above Zaslofsky
Wow. Okay. I go
because
the opposite,
Ferris
but
because
okay.
Ferris created the shot clock and he merged the BBA with the NBL.
Right. And I think you and I can both agree. We're talking about three people that had a case to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and I don't say this as a shot to you, but before you were born.
Yeah, I know. Before you were born too.
Thank you for that. That was a shot at me.
Well, there, but yeah, that's just how I would go. If it was those three, it would be Edwards,
Yeah, okay.
then Ferris, then Zaslofsky. And
Yeah,
as for,
see if you look as good as me at 50.
well, let's see. And as for Lubin, I mean, I would want to see the basketball hall like expand its international section because I feel like they could really be use some international contributors. I think that would really be nice.
But
Um,
yeah, and before, yeah, I agree with you. I really enjoyed the one that we did on Frank Loop, and I learned a lot from listening to you on that and just doing some independent research.
right, you
It's
know,
one of the things I really love about this show. So Vin, can you share some of the things that you're going through right now that I'm really excited about? Are you allowed to say that?
I'm allowed to say it. I'm not under an undisclosure agreement or anything. I'm allowed to say whatever I want.
Okay, so like, because you've got a new gig that I'm really excited for you to tell all the people about because I am proud of you. It's like I'm not your dad. I'm old enough to be, but I'd like to think that maybe I'm your pseudo creepy uncle.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna be working. Don't know when yet, but I'm gonna be working for the Women's National Developmental League, which is a regional basketball league. There's a there's teams all across like the Eastern U.S. There's you know here in Westchester, New Jersey, Connecticut, North Carolina, D.C.,
Their version of
Georgia.
the G League, Ben?
Yeah, basically a women's version of a G League, and I would
Nice.
travel with the teams like even like Milwaukee, Minneapolis, and
Okay, when you're in Minneapolis, let me know ahead of time because I'll just swing down from Winnipeg, maybe, huh?
yeah, I'll let you know if I ever do go there, but that's going to be a bit in the distance when that does happen.
Right.
But I'd be interviewing the players and the coaches and whatnot, and I'll be traveling with the teams. So far, I get a little bit, and I'm also right now going to probably be working with the National Sports Museum, which I had an interview with today.
Mhm.
Uh, let's just say they're very impressed. like
Okay,
Like
awesome.
they even asked me like my minimum salary, and I mentioned it, and they said that hey, you deserve more than that.
Well, even if it doesn't happen, they should take you. I can't endorse you enough for anything and everything, but now I'm gonna plug a bunch of stuff here. But before I do that, I mean, if you enjoyed what we're doing here, and if you're watching this, you're a basketball fan, so hey, you know what's going on right now? Like, if Max Zaslofsky gets into this, we're gonna know come the Final Four weekend, and this is a great betting time. Right. And Vinny
Absolutely,
and
it is.
I, we were this the show is sponsored by our friends at BetStamp. So if you're going to be doing some betting at this time in Final Four, college basketball action, or really anything for that matter, I've already got a few ideas that I'm going to tell Vinny about that I'm going to bet for next year, and he'll probably tell me why I'm wrong because anytime I bet, I'm wrong. But here's the great thing about BetStamp. I'm now following some of the people who are great bettors there because you can sort of like take what they do and just sort of become the best at really sports gambling. And BetStamp's not it's not a William Hill. It's not a Bet 888. It's not one of those. What it does, if you're going to make a big purchase in life, what do you do, Ben? When you make a big purchase, you lay it all out, and then you sort of like, look, okay, I've got 10 choices. What am I going to do? That's what BetStamp is. It's
Mhm.
Trivago for sports gambling. So all the ones that you do. So if you've got an idea, if you've got a hunch, and Vinny and I, we've been talking a bit of World Baseball Classic, right? Because I asked you before, like, who are you cheering for as a good Italian American? Are you cheering for the Americans? Are you cheering for Italians? And I already knew the answer because Vinny doesn't cheer for anybody. Vinny cheers for entertain me.
Entertain me. The UK definitely does not entertain me because their jerseys look like you took an Arial black font on Microsoft Word and just placed it on, your jersey.
You just articulated better than what my wife said, but I was watching Columbia. It's like, holy, that's amazing. Their jerseys are incredible. But you can make some wagers on that. So let's say Vinny wanted to channel his inner Italianism. Is that a word? Italianism?
Mm,
No.
I don't care.
Italianness?
I don't care.
How about his inner paisan?
I just inner Paisan works, I
There you
guess.
go. There you go. And he says, you know what? I think Mike Piazza, the manager, he's going to lead them because they just got into the second round. But let's say he wanted to make a bet ahead of time, or I wanted to make a bet ahead of time. What?
So if he Pete Rose is he transforms into Pete Rose, the
Right.
Paisan Pete Rose.
Paisan Pete Rose. I like that. So Paisan Pete Rose. Well, not Mike Piazza shouldn't bet on it, but let's say I do. So I'm Paisan Pete Rose, or you're Paisan Pete Rose. I'm Pasty
Uh,
Pete Rose. Yeah.
yes.
All right. So us two Pete Roses, we're trying to think. Okay, we both think Italy's going to win, hypothetically. Well, we want the best bet. If we're going to put down 100 smacks, we want to sort of like see who's going to pay us the best. And that's what BetStamp does. So you download the BetStamp app, and then all the ones that you normally gamble on, you just sort of like see who's paying out the best odds. Or you can do that really for anything. For game versus game, it's really the best thing. If you're a sport, if you gamble on sports, if you don't have BetStamp, you're doing it wrong, right, Vin?
Absolutely.
Doing it wrong. So we've got a promo code for you. It's buck 25. So do that. Even if you don't want to do this, just do this for Vinny and I. How about that?
Do it or else.
Do it, or else my dog's gonna get it. Well, okay, that didn't work, but that was an old Mad magazine thing. Okay,
Hmm.
all right, I'll explain that one to you later. But the promo code's buck 25. So just download BetStamp right now on your phone. Do it now, please. Help us out. I'm struggling here.
Please do it.
Do it. Do it
Please
now.
do it.
Right.
Do it.
Also, Vinny's going to be an eventual guest on another show that we're finally going to do episode 2 soon. Finally. Actually, the guy you're going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame with, it looks like,
Yeah.
Paul Lawrence.
Indeed, AO.
So I might join the two of you. I haven't decided yet. We'll see.
Yeah. We're hopefully my friend Zach lives in Canton as well. He's not big into sports,
Mhm.
but I might see him there too. Um,
So he's going to host us, is what you're telling me.
maybe I don't know. I mean, he doesn't know much about sports though.
All right, well, no, good. So, but I mean, it's something that I might do. But Paul Lawrence and I, we do the retro football show, and we did a great one on the Ice Bowl. So now we're finally going to do Super Bowl 3. I was
Ah,
hoping that I could find someone who's a big Jets fan to sort of like be a special guest, but I guess not. So we're just going to
I'm
do
not a
that.
Jets fan, so no.
I know you're not, but you're going to be on one of these shows, man.
I know. I'm aware.
I know you are. I know you are. So look for that soon. There's always the weekly Hall of Fame show with Evan Nolan. We're gonna start recording again for this crowd. How the hell did this go #1? Because of well, things going on at home. I haven't been on top of that as much as I wanted to, but we're gonna be. We're gonna be.
I'm gonna take a guess and say Sean Kemp elevator down.
He already was. Yes, he was elevator down.
But there's still stuff going up, but it's still elevator down. Don't forget.
Oh yes, but yes, it's elevator down for sure.
Mhm.
But with that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, stay safe, everyone.
Bye, guys.